Okay, and welcome back, students taking math for business and finance and math applications. And hopefully this will be the last video for the chapter 21 summary practice test. So let me get to it real quick here. All right, so we're down to problem number 5, and it says here, Leah Long bought one bond of Vic Company for 147. The original bond was 8.25%. Leah wants to know the current yield to the nearest 10% and help her with this calculation. Okay, so when we're talking about yield, right, remember we're talking about what you're getting versus your divided by your cost. So in this case here, for a yield on the bond, we're talking about interest, and we're dividing it by the cost of that particular bond. It's like a return on investment almost. So for our interest in this case here, we're at 8.25% interest, or 8.25% interest, and that in a decimal form is 0.0825. Okay, and so we have 0.0825, and the face value of the bond is 1,000. Right, so I know that this here is going to be 82.5, 82.5, 82.50 is the interest on the bond. Now, yeah, I could have did the math and come up with 8250, but I'm not going to go through that. You can watch that in the other videos, in the earlier videos, I should say. So our interest is 8250. Okay, so I have interest of 8250. Now I need the cost of the bond. Okay, and the bond price is at 147, and because I know the shortcut, the cost of my bond is 1,470. Now remember, you can go back to problem 2121 and see how to do all of the math, but it's really not necessary when you do the math at first so that you can see that relationship there. Okay, notice that I just added a 0 to that. Okay, but don't take that for granted, because when you look at discounted bond, it plays with your mind a little bit. But anyway, you can just, if you do the math enough times, you'll start to see that relationship between the value of the bond and the price of the bond, and then you can do it just as quickly as I did without having to do all of the math. But where we stand right now, okay, so we have the 8250, and we're dividing it by the price of the cost of the bond, which is 1470. And when I do that math, divide it by 1470, I end up with 0.0561, and to the nearest 10%, so I have 5.6%. Okay, right. That's number 5. Okay, number 6. All right. Okay, cumulative preferred stockholders. I hope number 7 is a mutual fund one, to make it real quick, because doing these here dividend ones for stocks takes quite some time. All right, we have cumulative preferred stockholders of Rail Company received 80 cents per share. Okay, so, and the company has 7,000 shares outstanding. For the last 9 years, Rail paid no dividends. Okay, this year Rail paid 400,000 in dividends. Okay, right. So what is the amount of the dividends in arrears that is still owed to the preferred stockholders? Right. So this one isn't so bad, because why? We have 70,000 shares, and they're being owed 80 cents per share, or $56,000 a year. That's per year, is what they're going to get in dividends. Okay, they get 56,000 per year. Now, it says for the last 9 years, okay, no dividends were paid. right? And since this is cumulative, okay, what that means is we just keep, just keeps on adding and adding and adding. So if you do the long math, you have 56,000 is what they were owed for year 1, and 56,000 for year 2, and 56,000 for year 3, and you could keep on going and going and going until you get to year 9, okay? Well, what you do here instead is you say, okay, I have 56,000 and they're owed for 9 years, so that's going to be 54, 545, 50, 500 and I'm sorry, yeah, right, 56, right, 504,000 is what is in arrears as of year 9, right? Because it's cumulative stock, right? So this year, which is year 10, all right, they're being paid 400,000 in dividends. Well, that means they also accrue an additional 56,000. So now they're owed $560,000 of dividends. So it's for year 10, right? Year 10, they get the 56,000. So now they're in arrears for a full 560,000. Okay, and it says this year, which is year 10, their 400,000 is paid in dividends. So if they're owed 560 and this year they're being paid 400, they get a dividend of 400,000, that means they're still owed $160,000 for the dividend. So now at the end of year 10, they're in arrears for $160,000. Okay, relatively simple. That one was easy because they made the numbers, just that easy. But if you had year 1, they got paid a portion, year 2, they got paid nothing, year 3, there was this dividend, it would have just went on forever. Okay, but like I said, in the theory videos, when it comes to doing these dividends, each and every situation is different and unique, and you have to understand what happens with preferred, you have to understand what happens with common, and you have to understand the terminology and apply those concepts to the situation at hand as it unfolds in a particular problem in order to determine how much preferred gets and how much common gets. And so even though you can go back and look at another problem and watch it and have some idea, you can't copy it exactly, right? If you go back to, let me see here. I want to find where I did that, my very first one. And, okay, 18, oh, not that one. 19, let's see, not 19. I can't remember. I actually started, well, maybe it was the first page. Well, give me a second here. I'm just trying to see. 21-9. All right, that's what I was looking for. All right, drill problem 21-9. Okay, that one there, I started right from scratch and worked through a set of scenarios in order to be able to answer that particular problem. But it gave you the thought process and the concepts of what is going on, what the terminology means, and starts out from scratch as if all I had was just common stock and I got paid a dividend. And it worked through that particular problem showing both preferred and common stock. So if you're not getting this or you need more understanding, go back to that particular problem and you'll watch that also. Okay. All right, number 7. Bill Roundy bought 800 shares of a mutual fund with a net asset value of $14.10. This fund has a load charge of 3%. A, what is the offer price? And B, what did Bill pay for the investment? Okay. So Okay, so what is the offer price? Well, what does that mean? All right. You have the net asset value as 1410, and you have a 3% load charge or a commission. Right. So we take the 1410 and we multiply it by 3%. No, actually, you can either multiply it by 3% times 0.03 and get 0.423, and then add that to the 1410, which gives you 32541, or 1452 is your offer price. Okay, you could have either done it that way, or you could have taken the 1410 and multiplied it by 1.03, and you would have ended up with the same amount. Okay, the offer price. So that's what what it will cost to buy that mutual fund, buy one share in that mutual fund. Now, if the price is $14.52 and he wants to buy 800 shares, okay, 0016 41 36, he ends up paying $11,616 for the investment in that mutual fund. Okay, so you're, real quick, because this problem was slightly different. It's not slightly different, it's just asking for something different, because we really didn't talk so much about, what is the price. The net asset value of 1410 is the price of the mutual fund, but remember, that's over that basket of shares. Okay, and you never, well, in this particular book, you're not going to get into that nitty-gritty detail. All right, yes, you may be asked to calculate the net asset value, and let's see here. Where was the one problem? Okay. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I'm looking for the problem for the net asset value. Turn the page. Okay, if you looked at problem 2117, I'm sorry, 2127, okay, 2127, you actually did the calculation for the net asset value. Okay, so go back and watch that video again if you want to know how to calculate the net asset value based upon, the data that you're given. But for this problem here, you're being told that that's what it is, 1410, which you can think of in terms of the price of the mutual fund. Now, it does say that, this fund has a load charge, in other words, a commission of 3%. So you have to tack on 3% onto that 1410 if you want to buy one share of that particular fund, right? And we showed you two different ways of doing it. One, by taking the 3% and then adding it back to the 1410, or two, by multiplying by 1.03, in other words, 1 being 100% of the 1410 and 3 the additional amount of the commission. And remember, that concept, that theory is covered in earlier chapters in the book on percentages and things. Okay, so I can multiply by 1.03 and I arrive at the same exact answer. Okay, but that's the price, per share, okay, of the mutual fund. Remember, mutual fund, notice it's very similar. I'm talking very similar to stocks, because it is nothing but a basket of stocks. So I take that price, that cost, and I multiply it by the 800 shares that I want to buy, okay, and I end up with $11,616, okay, and that's what it would cost me to buy the 800 shares, right? So, really, that's all there is to it. You You've seen this being done within stocks. And like I said, throughout this entire book, you've just been building, 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 and it's basically the same concepts, but you're applying them to just different situations. Okay. So with that said, we're done with chapter 21, and we'll see you for chapter 22 in the next set of videos.